I have done what you really shouldn't do. At least not yet though, and that is buy the new Nintendo Switch 2. And now that I've used it over the past few days, I am going to give you my honest thoughts on it, and let you know why that you should probably pass on it. For now at least. Hi all, my name is Davis and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things tech. And today I am really excited to be talking about my most highly anticipated portable gaming console of the year. I mean, it's probably the only major portable gaming console coming out this year, but you know what I mean. So for context, I am a massive fan of portable gaming. In fact, I actually prefer it to traditional console gaming. And that's mainly because I'm the sort of person who doesn't exactly have much free time. I just don't find myself having the time to sit down and actually enjoy a game for a few hours. So I have to fit my gaming wherever I can. Ever since I was a kid with my PlayStation Portable, I've got a dissected one back there. I spent the majority of my gaming time on public transport while waiting for appointments, things like that. And long plane trips were just my favorite because it meant that I could just game for hours on end. And while I did enjoy my Sony portables for a while, I loved my PSP and my Vita later on. More recently, I've been using a combination of my Steamdeck OLED and also my Switch Lite. Well, I've gone through all of the major Switch releases from the original to the lightly updated one. I got the Animal Crossing version, I had the OLED version as well, and now I mainly use my Lite version due to the size. And while it's a little bit too large to be strictly portable, I do love it because it's something that I can still take with me everywhere I go with very little effort, and I just game whenever I've got a few spare minutes. And it also helps that without the wobbly Joy-Cons, the build quality actually feels a lot more reassuring than the larger Switch systems. And now the Steam Deck. Now this has sort of become my go-to gaming device when I'm at home. Yep, even when I'm at home, I choose to use a portable device. The thing is about this is that it's literally so large that it takes up my entire bag, so I don't really tend to take it out with me. But I have enjoyed playing all of my favorite childhood games on this thing, like PS2 titles like Gran Turismo 4 and even PS3 titles like Ridge Racer 7. And this console really just does it all, albeit at a price, which is the size. So it's, as you can see, it's absolutely massive. So let's see how the Switch 2 fits into my portable gaming life. So if you enjoy the videos that I make on this channel and want to see more, be sure to give me a like, a subscribe, and also comment down below if you've got any questions about the Switch 2 or just portables in general. So firstly, let's talk about the hardware of the Switch 2. And I do have to say that I am overall seriously impressed with the industrial design. And too often Nintendo hardware feels a little bit cheap and toy-like, and that was fine when the consoles were cheap and small. Nobody complained that the 2DS felt cheap because it was cheap. However, when the original Switch came along, which was priced a little bit higher and also had a lot of moving pieces, problems really started to creep in. Not only did it feel distinctly cheap with a little flimsy stand, the surface of the plastic wearing over time, and of course the Joy-Con drift, but my biggest problems with it were the extremely wobbly Joy-Cons. Oh my god, it was insane how bad they were. While the Joy-Cons always felt okay when new, after a few months of regular use, they would always wear down. Even on my OLED Switch, man, I did not like the feeling of it twisting in my hands. And that is why I am just overall so impressed with the hardware of the Switch 2. It looks and feels amazing, especially when compared to the previous model. In fact, it sort of makes the Steam Deck feel a little bit fat and lardy, and actually it feels rather cheap in comparison to the Switch 2 as well. So on the front of the Switch 2, we do have a 7.9-inch LCD IPS display, which is okay. And while I do prefer the OLED display that we got on the old Switch and also the Steam Deck, I do understand why they went with an LCD, as it does cut down on the cost, allows for a far easier variable refresh rate compatibility. Unfortunately though, it's just not a very bright nor colourful display, and the size just makes for a console that's way too big to be a portable console in my eyes. I mean, just compare it with the Switch Lite, which was already a little bit large to put in a pocket. I mean, it's too big for my taste. The bezels, however, for a Nintendo device especially, are nice and small. And although the rounded plastic body feels really great, I especially love the polycarbonate texture, which feels a little bit like an old Nokia Lumia. The kickstand as well is quite similar to the OLED kickstand, but it is U-shaped and it's far better than what we got on the original Switch. And I don't know about you, but it feels like a far higher quality device than before. The Joy-Cons, however, I think are the biggest improvement. And the reason for that is because, as you probably know, they are now magnetic. Now, don't get me wrong, they still wobble a lot. It still feels quite loose when you're gaming in your hands, but at least I know in the back of my mind that the wobbliness is not because of bits of plastic wearing away or the screws stripping themselves. It's just the nature of magnets and how it works. It's somehow fine in my mind. The new magnetic mechanism to take the Joy-Cons on and off, you just press this button over here like so, and then you can pull it off. It just feels really, really reassuring and satisfying. It feels a little bit actually like the ads for the original Microsoft Surface. It's kind of just amazing to play with it like that. The hardware in general compared to the Steam Deck is just so sleek and beautiful. I really do prefer this design, but at the same time, I do wish that the Switch was a little bit smaller, and I also wish that it had some proper trigger buttons. I mean, what's up with this? We've just got little clicky buttons over here compared to proper triggers on the Steam Deck. It really does make racing games quite difficult to play, but I guess we can't have everything. So I am quite impressed with the hardware overall, so you might be wondering, why am I not recommending this device? Well, the fact is that unless you really do want to play your Switch 1 games again at a slightly higher frame rate, I'm afraid that there is literally nothing to play on the Switch 2. I honestly can't remember a launch library as bad and empty as this one, as since the original Switch maybe. Even the PlayStation Vita had a better launch lineup than the Switch 2. Because apart from the new Mario Kart World game, just about every other launch game here I can already play on the Steam Deck, and it's probably a better experience there as well. For example, I thought about buying Civilization 7 on the Switch 2 so that I could try out the mouse feature, which actually is pretty cool. You might think that it's kind of terrible, but it works surprisingly well. The problem is that I've already spent 130 Australian dollars on the Steam version of the game, which I can play on my Steam Deck, and I had also purchased this game again for roughly $100 on my Meta Quest. So I really don't feel like buying it for a third time. And I don't know about you, but I really don't feel like revisiting Zelda again, no matter how good it might be, and even if the $20 upgrade price isn't that bad. And because of that, we are left with the new Mario Kart World. And just ignoring the price, because I don't actually personally feel that the price is all that egregious. In Australia, it's $110, which is around the same price as what PS3 games were 15 years ago. Rather, my problem with it is that it's just not a very good Mario Kart game at all. Now, I don't feel like that anyone was asking for a Mario Kart Forza Horizon crossover, but I guess here it is. I feel like that I'm focusing too much on the downsides here, but the thing is that I don't like this new art style. Despite the higher quality assets, it looks worse than Mario Kart 8 in my opinion. I don't like the vehicle handling, it feels a lot looser than before, and I absolutely cannot stand the new track design. Mario Kart 8 had one of the best track lists of any kart racer. Just about all of the tracks, ignoring the new DLC tracks, were designed to perfection. It was so fun to drive and master for hours and hours on end. And the problem is that these tracks have now been replaced by open stretches of empty road that are incredibly wide. And the fact that you just race on these is unfathomable. I mean, sure, you do eventually get to drive on the traditional Mario Kart tracks, but you only do one lap of them per race, which just is not enough. I feel like that the races should just be on the traditional tracks, and they could have just used these long road trip sections for a different mode. But enough about my distaste of Mario Kart, because I'm still having quite a bit of fun with it despite my problems. But it just highlights what is so wrong with the Switch 2 at the moment. It is a brilliant piece of hardware, but there's just nothing really to do on it. But just going through the library as well, we've got Hogwarts Legacy, Cyberpunk, Civilization 7, everything here I can play on the Steam Deck as well. In addition to that, while it's cool that we can play GameCube games on the Switch 2, on the Steam Deck, we've got a library, we've got access to literally every single classic console. I can play Outrun, I can play Test Drive Unlimited, I can play Ridge Racer 7 and MotorStorm. There's no point in trying to compete with the Steam Deck if we are talking about retro titles. I mean, of course, the original Switch also did have similar issues to the Switch 2 when it first came out, but the difference here is that the context is completely different. Back then, the Switch was so innovative because it was the only real way to play console quality games on the go. It really was quite mind-blowing. And although the Switch 2 is essentially the perfect update to the original Switch, now the context is completely different. Now we are blessed with a wide variety of PC handhelds like the Steam Deck, which are far more capable and versatile than the Switch 2, which just makes the library look emptier than ever. If the Switch 2 were smaller, a bit like the Switch Lite, I feel like that it could have a niche part of the handheld market to itself. But because it is so large, it is sort of impossible not to compare it to devices like the Steam Deck. Now, don't get me wrong, the Switch 2 will probably come into its own in 6 to 12 months when the library expands. But for now, I just have to implore that you save your money and wait. But at least the Switch 2 in Australia is priced quite sharply. While it's significantly more expensive than the original Switch, at 700 Australian dollars, it's hundreds less than the equivalent Steam Deck. And even the games aren't too expensive. I mean, $110 is the same price as what we paid for PS3 games 15 years ago. However, I do understand that it does cost a lot more in America and the UK at 450 American dollars or 400 Great British pounds respectively, which to be fair, it still isn't too bad, but it's not the usual super competitive Nintendo pricing. So those are my thoughts on the Switch 2 as a portable console. I mean, it's good, but I just wish that it was a little bit smaller because then it could have its own unique place in the market. Because as a larger portable, it just doesn't really hold up to the Steam Deck and other similar devices to it, as it's far more versatile in what you can do. So do you have any thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2? Would you recommend a Switch 2 or a Steam Deck? Let me know in the comments. And if you've come this far, I would really appreciate it if you could come and try out my brand new app that I've co-founded. And it's called Impro. It's the ultimate video-based marketplace platform for jewelry. So if you are looking to buy a gift for a family member or perhaps a partner, we've got plenty of amazing deals on pieces of gorgeous jewelry just like this one. And if you comment on one of my videos here, maybe I can even give you a little bit of a shout out. Isn't that exciting? I've got the link to the app in the bio, so please check it out there and give me your thoughts as well. Otherwise, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And until next time, toodaloo.